Welcome to Discovering Brevard. I'm your host, McKenna Murphey. Watch your water use, or you may be visited by the water police, and careful with the cantaloupes. It is headlines like these that are making people wonder why they have so much grass that needs watering in their landscapes, and exactly where is their food coming from. These are two of the reasons that the Green Marketplace was established. The Green Marketplace is a cooperative partnership among several local growers who all have the goal of living, working, and growing their food and plants in a sustainable manner, and then offer their products and knowledge to the community. At the Green Marketplace, you can currently find Naturewise with native and edible plants, seasonal heirloom vegetables, plants, seeds, and natural gardening products. Hise Farms with hydroponically grown produce, jellies, and value-added goods. 12 Palms Farms with dairy goat and dairy cow products. Fresh eggs, local raw honey, soap, and more. Marina's Herbs featuring herbal wisdom, medicinal plants, and herbal remedies. Bats, belfries, bat houses, pollinator structures, and pollinator outreach and education. And K-Post Inc. with seasonal, fresh, and chemical-free produce, eggs, and natural soil amendments. Today in the studio, we'll be talking to Kari Ruder of the Naturewise Plants and Mary Hise of Hise Farms, two of the founders of Green Marketplace. Welcome, ladies. I would like to start with you, Kari. Can you give us some details about your background?
Sure. Well, I've worked in the environmental field since I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Wisconsin. My work has always focused on native plants, and while I was working for the Brevard County Natural Resources Management Office, I identified a need for more native plants to be made available through the landscape trade. So I had returned to school to earn my Master's of Science degree in environmental horticulture, and I did this at the University of Florida. I then proceeded to launch my native plant nursery, Naturewise, here in Cocoa. And Naturewise is also a member of the Florida Association of Native Nurseries, which works cooperatively to educate Floridians about finding and using the right native landscape plants for their areas. And I also have volunteered for the last few years as the Education and Outreach Chair for the Florida Native Plant Society. I like to stay involved in these organizations to further the conservation of native plant communities and ensure that I can best help my customers create native landscapes.
Very interesting. Now, why use native Florida plants in the landscape?
Well, there's lots of reasons. For example, we have a very unique and somewhat challenging growing environment here in Florida. We have very sandy soils, we have hot, humid weather, we're prone to many pests, insects, and diseases as well. So a lot of non-native plants just don't thrive in our conditions and require fertilizer, pesticides, and irrigation to survive. Our native plants are already adapted to our soils, climate, pests, and even our coastal conditions, so they can thrive without the use of expensive fertilizers and pesticides. We are finding that much of the pollution in our waterways is actually coming from runoff from our yards, and if we're using chemicals in our yards, those chemicals are getting washed into our waterways, which can cause fish kills, algae growth, and other undesirable effects. So we're also looking at facing water shortages, and we should be conserving our water for drinking and producing food, not trying to keep our yards looking green. Native plants, on the other hand, if planted in the right place, do not require irrigation once they're established, so using native plants conserves our resources, prevents pollution, and saves time and money.
Can you give our viewers some examples of the types of plants that they should be using in their landscapes?
Sure, yeah. You have to remember that not every native plant will work in every given landscape. You need to look at what your soil is, if you have sandy or clay, if you have moist or dry, if you have salt spray or salt water in your yard, if you have a lot of wind, if you have sun versus shade, whether or not you might get winter freezes. We're at a unique spot here in Brevard. So we have a lot of considerations, and we have a lot of great native plants that will work in each situation. However, a few of the popular native plants for a lot of us have the sunny, sandy soils. Some of those would include the blanket flower, which is a really pretty wildflower, coral honeysuckle, which is a very showy vine, and then firebush, a native shrub which attracts many butterflies. And then finally, sunshine mimosa. Sunshine mimosa is a ground cover which makes a really good alternative to turf.
Interesting, very interesting. interesting. Now, what other advantages are there for using native plants?
Well, in addition to conserving water, we can use native plants to help kind of replace a little bit of the habitat that's been lost to development. We can sort of create mini ecosystems, nesting and food sources for birds and wildlife, which need various native food sources to survive. And by attracting wildlife to our yard, they will help to control insect populations, pollinate our flowers and our fruiting plants, and then maintain a natural balance. So planting a diversity of different native trees, shrubs, grasses, and wildflowers helps to attract a diversity of insects, as well as birds and wildlife. So getting to know kind of what habitat was or is near where you now live can help you to determine the best species to plant to help the wildlife in your area.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kari. And we're going to go on a commercial break, but we'll be back in just a second with our second person here, which is Mary Hise.
It ain't got cream. If it was any fresher, you'd have to get it straight from the tap.
Our second guest today is Mary Hise of Hise Farms. Can you tell us about your farm operation, Ms. Hise?
Hise Farms is a family-owned and operated farm. It's my husband, myself, and my 2 children. We are located out in Canaveral Groves here in Brevard County.
Okay. And what are the advantages of growing produce such as hydroponics?
Well, we use a vertical method mainly for these strawberries. Strawberries are our main crop, and they are under greenhouse. We have over 6,000 berries presently under greenhouse in the vertical method. Being that they're in the greenhouse, we can keep them a lot cleaner, and we know exactly what kind of fertilizers go into them. We're not worried about like a runoff from neighbors' fields or from people fertilizing with things that are not organic.
Interesting. Now, what are you currently growing in your greenhouses right now?
Like I said, strawberries are our main crop. We have over 6,000 in the greenhouses. We also have lettuce growing in an NFT system. We can harvest up to 480 heads of lettuce at a time, but normally what we do is that we do them on a rotation so that every week we can have fresh lettuce for our customers, approximately 60 heads at a time. We also sell them as living lettuce, which we keep the roots on. You can put them in your refrigerator that way, and it keeps it a lot fresher, and it's not a dead lettuce that you're eating like you would get sometimes in a store. With it living, it keeps it a lot more nutrients and so forth for it.
So a way better salad.
Yes.
I can imagine that there are many advantages to growing produce in a controlled environment, but can you tell us a little bit more about the advantages of doing that?
Well, with the way we grow it, with the stacks, first off, you're not bending over, they're not grown in any dirt, so they're cleaner. It's easier on you yourself because everything is at like a waist height. The insect control, being in greenhouse, we don't get the insects that you would normally get like if you were in dirt, and we can make sure that they only get the nutrients that we want to give them so that they're produced more organically.
So those little lettuce things would be obsolete if your all's things came more
Well, no, you still need to wash
The lettuce, even though it's not.
any produce. Because once we pick and everything, you still have airborne things that could get in, you know, to wherever we are.
Do you have a lot of pest control? Like, do you have to worry about having to put up any pesticides or anything on your plants?
We do, but we only use organic pest control.
Okay.
We don't use any kind of chemicals that we would spray, you know. Of course, my family is going to eat the same produce, so we're going to make sure it's as clean as possible for ourselves as well as our customers.
Right. Well, that sounds wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Mary, and thank you. I just wanted to ask you one more question. I understand that you all have a cookbook out. Can you just tell us a little bit about it? Because I'm a cooker, and I would love to start cooking with organic foods.
Well, the cookbook that we have put together was put together by us at the Green Marketplace and some of our customers. And everything is made in the cookbook from fresh produce, meats. None of the recipes were allowed to have any kind of packaged products put in them. So, and it's called From Florida's Farms, Fields, and Forests. And it also includes things that you can make from native plants.
And where could someone like myself get this cookbook? Where is it sold? Is it only at the Green Marketplace?
Yes, you can pick up copies at the Green Marketplace. There's also a website.
Yep, you can go to the Florida Native Plant Society's website. They have an online store, and the website is www.fnps, that's FloridaNativePlantSociety.org. And there's a link there, and you can click on that. And then if you buy it through their website, then a portion of the sales does go to the Native Plant Society as a fundraiser. That was one of the reasons we included a lot of native plant ingredients in our cookbook, was so we could encourage people to use ingredients, things that grow in their yard that aren't traditional food sources. So we wanted to use things, not native plants, but also some of our unique things that can grow in Florida that don't grow elsewhere. But then there's also a lot of ingredients for anything from, that we use a lot of heirloom tomatoes, for example, heirloom peppers, goat cheese. We have something called a beautyberry, which is a native shrub. So there's a lot of things that you can use that are specific, not just to Brevard. Some things are, but a lot of things that you can find throughout the country. But the whole goal was to make it as local as possible.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Well, thank you again, ladies, for coming on the show. This is McKenna Murphy reminding all of you that any day is a good day to discover Brevard.